On Wednesday, President Trump signed an executive order to end the process of separating children from their parents at the U.S. southern border. Trump told reporters that the zero tolerance policy against crossing the border illegally will remain, but that parents will be with their children while in custody. So he was flanked by his team, his Secretary of Homeland Security, Kirsten Nielsen, and his VP, who was top dog during the whole sign-in little ceremony. President Trump said, "We're going to have strong, very strong borders, but we're going to keep the families together. I didn't like the sight or the feeling of families being separated." So again, here we have the President of the United States who initiated, well, at least his administration did, with his full support, of separating families at the border. This was his administration that enacted this type of policy. But this is President Trump removing himself from any type of responsibility for it and saying, oh, yeah, I mean, this is such a sad situation. I didn't like this at all. I'm glad we got to do something about it.
Yeah, since the middle of April of this year, nearly 2,000 children.
I think it's over now.
It's over now. It was just the numbers that I got were from the end of July.
Right, okay.
End of May. Sorry, May, okay. End of May. So they didn't include the numbers from this month. So at that time, from the middle of April until May 31st, it was like 1,995 children that had been separated from their parents. That was this year. This year, not last year.
Yeah, just in a short period of
time.
Not
last year, not the year before last.
Yeah.
But this year.
Since April.
So, like, even if there's this, narrative going around that says Obama did the same thing, okay, great. So how do you explain the number of children being taken away from their parents going up? Right. How do people explain Trump, I guess, exaggerating this a year and a half after he was inaugurated?
Exactly. And so the whole thing about this zero tolerance policy staying in place, I don't know how accurate that is, because on Thursday, there was a senior official with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency that told the Washington Post that they will no longer refer migrants with children crossing into the U.S. Illegally to federal courthouses for prosecution. They said, well, the senior official said it is a decision that rests with them. Mm-hmm. It's not a decision that rests with the DOJ or the President of the United States. It is them. And so they are saying that no longer will they refer migrants with children who cross into the U.S. for criminal prosecution.
Yeah, Sessions' no tolerance policy put everything under the same umbrella. Mm-hmm. Whether it's just like being here illegally, illegal entry, other immigration violations, or possible criminal activity, it was all under the same umbrella, which is not how it was before.
What's funny to me is that, this whole time, because the controversy has been spiking. It's every day it seems like it's being talked about more, and the administration is taking more and more heat for it. So you saw a lot of deflections or excuses for it from the administration. Oh,
okay. So you're saying that partially some of the outrage could be due to how this administration has responded to it, and some of its surrogate networks known as Fox, and some of his surrogate supporters, like his former campaign manager, who was on, was that NBC?
Right. Corey Lewandowski,
where he was like, womp womp, when I guess another guest brought up one of the children detainees who had Down syndrome. He was like, womp womp.
Right. That was disgusting.
That was disgusting. Or like when you have another Trump supporter in Ann Coulter talking about these are child actors. Or you have
Trump himself
said the same thing. Or you have Jeff Sessions and Sarah Huckabee Sanders using the Bible to justify this. Right. Or you have what's the chick from Fox? Heil Hitler. Laura Ingraham. You call it Ingraham? What did she say? She said it was like
summer camp.
Like summer camp. Right. Like summer camp. And there was another person, I forgot his name, on Fox. He basically said, well, at least Trump is not gassing the children.
Oh, at least. That's the positive.
So again, we have like a lot of rhetoric accompanied with this policy. This policy, which is actually new.
But they all have been saying that what has to be done is through Congress. It's the Democrats' fault, and the only thing that can change this is Congress. It was Kirstjen Nielsen, that said Congress and the courts created this problem, and Congress alone can fix it. So if that is true, this is what they've been telling us for days and weeks, then how the hell was Donald Trump, President Trump, with a stroke of a pen, able to somewhat remedy the situation? If all of what they said was true, what was the meaning for this executive order then?
Oh, you mean like the executive order that happened the day after he claimed he couldn't do anything about it?
Not one thing. And
during the press conference, a reporter specifically asked him, I think it was a female reporter, and he was like, can't you, do something about it personally? She specifically said through executive order. And he was like, no. Can't do anything. But the day after that, he signs an executive order. And now he wants credit for it.
So I thought Donald Trump wasn't a politician. I thought this was somebody that was actually going to lead the people. He wasn't going to play party politics. He wasn't getting to this whole game. He was going to drain the swamp.
Democrats versus Republicans.
Yeah. But now it seems like, at the very least, it seems like you capitulated, which would be playing politics. Because you said that okay, you know what? Let's get to one part of the executive order, okay? It is unfortunate that Congress's failure to act and court's orders have put the administration in the position of separating alien families to effectively enforce the law.
If I'm reading it correctly, they're saying that this did not exist. The executive order says, hey, we had to do that because the law wasn't being enforced. Or we had to do this to enforce the law. Yes. By saying that, they are admitting that that was not a practice before.
Right.
Because they're saying that we had to do this because they weren't doing it.
So that would have been a shift in policy.
That would have been a shift in policy. Again, they could have left that out, but they had to insert a political talking point.
A political jab
but
to the Democrats.
In doing that, they're proving themselves to be liars.
Yes,
and
that's what they are.
The question I have is like, how does it make the process more efficient? Like taking children away from their parents. How does that make the process more efficient? How does that accomplish their goal? You see what I'm saying? Because why do they have to do that to carry out the law? The law as is.
They said that it was done again to enforce the law effectively and to prevent human trafficking. So again, if you're going to backtrack now, you're telling us that you are now allowing human trafficking and you can't effectively enforce the law with your executive order, with your presidential powers. I don't buy it. I don't buy that. This executive order did not address the kids that already have been taken away. So the over 2,000 kids that have been taken away, as of right now, it's still going through the process. Like they're still going through the process. It's not like they're immediately going to be returned to their parents, because that would be an exhaustive process anyways, because they have been shipped to different places in the United States of America.
And White House officials have already said that there is not actually a plan to see that those children are reunited with their parents.
Well, I saw a bit of it wasn't an interview. It was while Kirstjen Nielsen was walking away, and a reporter did ask her, was there a plan? She said, yes, there was. But she reminded the reporter that you're talking about you're not talking about the majority of these kids, because the majority of these kids are the unaccompanied minors that crossed the border, not the ones that crossed with their parents. So she wanted to throw that in just to make sure you understand that it's not the majority of kids that are being detained or whatever.
So what is this all about? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this all about? Is it important for us to get the facts straight, not take sides and get the facts straight? Right?
Yes.
Because of course Trump did the typical shift where he blamed the Democrats.
Right.
And of course, everyone responded with, well, Obama deported more people.
Right.
But that's not actually the conversation.
That's not the conversation.
The conversation was about children being separated.
Right.
That was the conversation. And this is not actually defending Obama or defending Bill Clinton, which a lot of people have referenced from the bill in 1997 that made being undocumented a misdemeanor.
Right.
Right. But it did not include anything about separating children from their parents. I think the only thing that bill included was provisions about how long they can have children in detention before they are reunited with their parents or someone that they know, a family member.
All right. So so that gets into why this isn't over yet. Okay. Because with this executive decision, what the Trump administration wants to do is effectively they want to detain families for an indefinite period of time. So there is a decision, a U.S. Supreme Court decision, and it's Flores v. Reno. And it stipulates that minor children cannot be held for more than 20 days. So this is why we understand that this is a new policy from the Trump administration, because what had been happening was that after 20 days, the whole family was being released. Now, like Flores v. Reno didn't stipulate that the parents had to be released from detainment, but they did it anyways. With the Trump administration, they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to hold these families, and we're just going to initially take the children because we know we can't hold them more than 20 days. So this is why this is not over. Flores v. Reno actually began about conditions it began about conditions to which minor children were being held by the government. So this is from Vox right here, and let me read this out. The Flores settlement requires the federal government to do two things: to place children with a close relative or family friend without unnecessary delay, rather than keeping them in custody, and to keep immigrant children who are in custody in the least restrictive conditions possible. Now, that was because the particular individual, Flores, was an immigrant girl, and the conditions to which she was being detained was very restrictive. You could say it was abuse. She was forced to she was forced into strip searches every day. There were some other things as well. So like I said, through that decision, they addressed parameters to which, you had to detain these children. But it started out as only about unaccompanied minors that crossed the border, not with their parents. Now, in 2014, under the Obama administration, that's when it changed to include accompanied minors as well, accompanied minors that were crossing the border with their parents. So it included all of them. And it was about different things, but the Obama administration was really trying to ram through these deportation proceedings. And there was a lot of criticism about that, because when you do that, you effectively stamp out due process. So it was just a horrible process. And they stopped doing it. But anyway, after 20 days, they would have released the whole family. So that's where the Trump administration comes in April, and they said, well, we're just going to take the kids. So,
and the tactic they used was to kind of change what kind of charge that they were giving to these parents,
right? Because it was always
a civil procedure.
Yeah, it was civil proceedings. It was a misdemeanor.
It would go through the immigration courts. Now,
right.
With Jeff Sessions and this administration's agenda going forward, they wanted to treat all these undocumented immigrants or asylum seekers, refugees, as criminals and send it through those courts.
Right. So again,
that's the way they get that. That's the way they rationalize. Hey, we got to treat these people like criminals. So that's why we got to take their kids away,
like violent criminals too.
But see, again,
like
they stepped in shit. They could have just did that. They could have just said, hey, they're all going to be criminals under the same umbrella. But they actually had to come out and say that we're going to do this. We're going to take children away as a tactic. They actually came and said that. This is why the ACLU got involved in that lawsuit.
See, the thing to do, if you're the Trump administration and you want to say, okay, you know what, we're going to be a law and order administration, and we are going to detain these people. We're going to hold criminal proceedings. This is a felony now. If you want to do that, then you would have challenged this ruling before you started ripping children away from their parents. Because again, if you're able to do this, and we have no idea if they're going to be able to just rip up Flores v. Reno. We have no idea if they're going to be able to do that. But if they were able to do that, then they would have been able to hold families for an indefinite period of time, and people wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have amounted to all this outrage because families would have been together in detainment, but they would have been together. So it wouldn't amount to all this outrage. But they did it in the other way, and that's why all this controversy was set off. So that's what I believe he's tasking the DOJ with doing, to challenge this ruling, which I don't think, I don't know if, first of all, I don't know if they'll be able to do it. But second of all, if they are, it's not good because one, it'll be indefinite detainment. And two, if you get rid of Flores v. Reno, then you're also getting rid of the rules on how to house minor children. Because, like I said, it all started with this young girl, Flores, who was being kept in very restrictive conditions. And like I said, it amounted to abuse. So then if you get rid of that ruling, you would be opening up the door for the government to abuse this situation, to abuse these parents and these children.
I think that's the point. That's why they're constantly building more detention centers, because they plan on keeping them indefinitely. You don't build big facilities if you don't have plans to keep them, or you know what I'm saying, or work around the law so you can do it.